Ladies and gentlemen, this is P9, and I am here to announce in this corner, standing at 33 feet tall and weighing a whopping 2,000 pounds, I announce the world's largest chair. And in this corner, standing right here in front of you at 5'10" and a mere 185 pounds, P9. And yes, I do not stand a chance, just like any other human being. But in all seriousness, you guys, this is the world's largest chair, certified in 1982 with such honor. And this was architected and built in 1981 by Leonard Sonny Miller, who owned an office supply store, as you can see right here. And it was built in order to attract business to this store. And it is now a roadside attraction here in Anniston, Alabama. So there's no way on God's green earth that you could drive by and miss this large chair right here. So there you have it. Let's get it. Here I go again with another video, and now I am in Anniston, Alabama. Anniston is the county seat of Calhoun County, and it is one of the twin cities of the Anniston-Oxford metro area, Oxford being the twin city of Anniston. And Anniston, as of the 2020 census, has a population of 21,287. And unlike its neighboring Oxford, Alabama, Anniston actually witnessed a population decline. You know, ever since between, I'll say, its population peaked at 83,265 back in 1980. But as of the 2010 census, it was at 68,662, and now it is at 21,287. So it has suffered a massive population decline. But the city of Anniston itself has a long historical history. It was actually incorporated in 1883, so it was after the Civil War. But it does have a history of manufacturing, as you know, during that time in the early 20th century, Anniston was a city where, you know, a lot of cast iron was manufactured for sewage systems. So it was at one point in time an industrial hub. But there's also a long history of Anniston as it pertains to the Jim Crow era and the civil rights movement. So it's a lot to unpack about Anniston from a historical standpoint. But here I am walking down 11th Street in present day Anniston. Still pretty chilly outside. It's about 50 degrees right now. It's a little after 9 a.m. But it's still a nice day, nevertheless. So I'm at the corner of 11th Street and Gurney Street. But I'm gonna go ahead and take this left down Gurney Street real quick and come back up. And right, this red building to the right that was built in 1900 is the Calhoun County Courthouse. Again, Anniston is the county seat of Calhoun County. And here's a marker by the Human Relations Council and the Anniston City Commission on May 16, 1963, established by resolution the Human Relations Council, consisting of 5 white men and 4 black men. The council's purpose was to make recommendations concerning human relations, and its members were to be without influence. U.S. President John F. Kennedy praised the council's formation as one that should serve as a model for other American cities. And there were the council members right there: Reverend J. Phillips Noble, Raleigh Byrd, Harold Edward Cosper, Wilfred Galbraith, Marcus Howes, Reverend William McLean, Grant Oden, Reverend Nimrod Reynolds, and Leonard Roberts. So they were part of a human relations council, basically just to try to improve race relations right here in Anniston. And as you can notice, several clergymen and major people of the church, reverends, were definitely strongly involved in the civil rights era. So this is the Anniston City Hall building right here. This is Anniston City Hall. This building looks relatively modern. And here engraved in this right here, they have Donald. This was in 2019 and 2022. So at the time, this was when Donald J. Trump was president, and he's about to be president again, of course. And General Services Administration, and Emily Murphy was the administrator. So yes, I'm standing right outside here at Anniston City Hall, right across from Calhoun County Courthouse. And it's a couple of markers over here I want to check out real quick. Look at this right here. Look at those hills. I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm pretty sure you guys can see the hills in the backdrop. But here are some markers right here. The humble beginnings of Anniston. Block 148, the block on which I'm standing, was first developed in 1880 when 3 identical brick houses were constructed at the southeast corner of the block as rental properties for workers and nearby factories. This 1988 bird's eye view map of Anniston shows block 148 highlighted in green as the first image that shows us what these houses look like. A search of Anniston City's directories revealed that the majority of tenants worked at the nearby Anniston Manufacturing Company, a cotton mill that operated from 1880 to 1977. So remember, like I mentioned earlier, Anniston was a major manufacturing and industrial hub, you know. And here's some images This was on the grounds of the county courthouse back during that time. It was more like in a house type structure. This was 1929, 1935. As a crowd gathered to watch a wood chopping contest on the south side of West 11th Street. So they had a wood chopping contest. Wow. And brick houses. And it's the Anniston Street Railway. So remember, back during that time, this was the like late 1800s, 1890s to be more specific. That's when railways were the standard for transportation. And this is a surrounding development. So, oh yeah, that building right across the street where I started the video at, I forgot to mention that that was once an auto parts company called Anniston Auto Parts. But yes, Anniston City Hall and Fire Station was built on the north of Block 148. So here's another map right over here. That's what the courthouse and post office looked like back then in the Calhoun County Courthouse, which we saw earlier. So, you know, the only new addition in 1917 was the Chero Coca Bottling Company on West 12th Street. So you had a mercantile company, Anniston Mercantile Company, built in 1887, and the Armour and Company building was built adjacent to the mercantile. So these were both located on 11th and Moore Avenues. So you could see the development of Anniston progress. And here we go. And this is the civic purpose. And as you can see right here, this is the modern day layout, or at least as of 1969, this was the layout of Anniston. As you can see some more images right here. So I'm gonna go back down this way on Gurney, and then I'm gonna circle back around the other way down 11th Street and get some more footage of more parts of downtown. See this old building right here that looks abandoned? This was once a clothing store back in the heyday of Anniston. As you can see, completely abandoned. And they have a feed store right across the street called Downing's. I think that's what it is. No, I think it looks like it might be a carpet store. I think the establishment next to it is a feed store. But check out this marker. Remember I mentioned Anniston was a major site for the freedom fighters and the civil rights movement. This right here is where the Greyhound bus station protest took place in May 14th, 1961. 6 miles outside of Anniston on Alabama Highway 202, the Greyhound bus that had been attacked earlier by a mob of white extremists on this site was forced to stop because of a deflated tire. The pursuing mob intensified its attack and set the bus on fire, forcing the riders to depart. On board were freedom riders who were testing Boynton versus Virginia, the Supreme Court decision that segregation of public transportation was illegal. After federal intervention at the site of the burning bus, the injured riders were transported by ambulance to Anniston Memorial Hospital. The violence prompted a federal investigation. So yes, the feds had to step in and intervene with all the violence that was perpetuated towards the freedom riders, people that were just fighting for equality on public transportation. So here are different markers during different times. And here's also a really nice mural of the Greyhound bus right here. And it has a slogan, "It's such a comfort to take the bus and leave the driving to us." Okay. But yeah, this is basically a chronological display of the freedom rides that took place in 1961. They began in 1961 when the Congress of Racial Equality, or CORE, decided to test a 1960 Supreme Court ruling that outlawed segregation in depot restaurants and restrooms serving interstate passengers. So check this. There was already a Supreme Court ruling and Supreme Court legislation put in place that outlawed segregation, yet, there were still protests and violence from, white extremists. So, yeah. And this is the route right here, by the way. So the bus went from Anniston, went through Birmingham, Montgomery, through Jackson, Mississippi, all the way down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and New Orleans, Louisiana. Okay, so that, yeah, but it originated in Washington, D.C. So it's made its way down through Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, stopping in cities like Augusta, Athens, and Atlanta. So yes, there was tons of resistance. And who were the riders, you may be asking? In Atlanta, the riders separated into two integrated groups to board two different buses. The 7 who were on the Greyhound bus destined for Anniston included Albert Bigelow, who was 55, Ed Blankenheim, Genevieve Hughes, Jimmy McDonald, May Francis Moultrie, Joseph Perkins, and Hank Thomas. So a multitude of individuals of different race and ethnicities. And this is just, basically talking about the selection process. So these are people who were selected to partake on the committee, or the Freedom Riders. And these are just basically a bunch of experienced and committed activists. As you can see the image right there, black man sitting next to a white man. So these images tell a lot of stories in regards to what happened during this tumultuous time. The segregationists, of course, you had the Alabama chapter of the KKK, known as the Alabama Knights. And they actually knew about the freedom rides because, the FBI tipped them off. So, of course, the FBI was in cahoots with the KKK. And especially as it pertains to, wanting to maintain the segregation right here in the U.S. But yeah, and they had an Anniston local chapter of the KKK called the Alabama Knights, led by Kenneth Adams. So, yeah, actually, no, Kenneth Adams did not even belong to the Alabama Knights, but he was actually, he was notorious racist who was more than happy to help out the Alabama Knights in reinforcing the segregation. And here's the prelude. This is taken approximately 75 men had gathered in front of the Greyhound bus depot right here at 1031 Gurney. And this was the arrival. So wow, this is crazy. The driver and passengers had been warned earlier by a southbound bus driver outside the city that the station was closed and that an angry crowd had gathered. So the FBI was tipping off, I'm pretty sure they were tipping off like the local police department, the Klansmen, all of that. And this is where the ambush took place. The ambush took place right outside the station. Wow. So after the driver opened the door to allow a passenger on, undercover highway patrol agents L. Cowling. So this is the undercover highway patrol agent L. Cowling. So they hurried this front to stop anyone from entering. So yes, it was a lot of turmoil right here in Anniston. Wow. There goes the pursuit. There goes the flat tire right there. There was a smashed window too, as a result of the chaos. And then you had the violence that ensued that resulted in the fire of the Greyhound bus. So the bus was completely engulfed in flames, and it, you know, you can see the smoke right here and the images of horror from many of the different freedom riders and everyone involved. This is crazy, man. It's sad. It's sad even looking at this, man. The burning bus right here. While the riders awaited rescue, the bus continued to burn. The Anniston Fire Department extinguished the flames and administered oxygen. A state trooper called an ambulance, but it took Cowling to force the driver to carry the injured black riders as well as the white to Anniston Memorial Hospital. And that was the aftermath, you know, of the bus right here. That's what was left of the bus after it was burned. And it was collected for evidence, transported to Birmingham. Birmingham is probably like less than an hour's drive from Anniston, maybe a little more, who knows? So it's between 45 minutes to an hour drive. So, but yeah, the rescue right here. There goes Anniston Memorial Hospital during that time. And following the two attacks in Anniston, Greyhound and Trailways, the Freedom Riders on each bus were reunited Sunday evening at Reverend Shuttlesworth's Bethel Baptist Church parsonage. They slept there or at the homes of the volunteers. So it was good that, you know, you had volunteers that took in these passengers who were, you know, left stranded as a result of the fire of the bus, you know. But the ride didn't end. The national newspaper and television coverage of what had happened galvanized the Nashville student movement, which had already had experience successfully challenging segregationist practices through lunch counter sit-ins, stand-ins, and other acts of nonviolent resistance. So, of course, you know, you had a whole bunch of the Nashville student movement come together and push for equality. And so, you know, definitely there was definitely going to be pushback and an aftermath as a result. Yeah. 50 years later, May 11, 2011, 40 students who were retracting the route of the original Freedom Ride arrived in Anniston. The Student Freedom Ride was part of the promotion organized by the WGBH Boston, a member of the public broadcasting system. So, yeah. So 50 years after the fact, in 2011, you still, I guess they had survivors, people that, you know, that were part of that infamous event. Wow. Lighting the way, honoring the freedom riders and men and women who rode into history on May 14th, 1961, and the city of Anniston for embracing the past to look to the future. Dedicated August 22nd, 2013 by Ala Gasco. This is the Anniston Civil Rights and Heritage Trail. And man, this was a really, really good job they did on preserving the history of this site right here on Gurney Avenue. But yep, this is the Freedom Riders National Monument. And this building right here was built in 1952. 1031 Gurney Avenue. So this was the depot right here. This was the bus depot for the Greyhound and Trailways bus. All right, fam, on to a more positive note. As I proceed downtown Anniston, check this out. This store is called the Uncanny Village. So it looks like they sell a bunch of like vintage merchandise. And you see Danny DeVito right here. I think that's Danny DeVito with them glasses on and with the Elvis shirt. So it's a bunch of vintage things. As you can see, there goes one of the bounty hunters from Star Wars. And there goes a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles classic arcade machine. I would have loved to check that out, but unfortunately it's closed. So just moving on. Very quiet downtown. It's not many people walking around, and could you blame them? It's really chilly out here. I'm bundled to the T right now, so, but you know I got to get my footage, so it's all good. And look at these classical buildings over here. Now check this out. This is called the Noble Street Park. I'm at the corner of 11th Street and Noble Street. Let me go down this part of Noble Street and I'm gonna come back on the other end of Noble. Well, a lot of these buildings are still, they're occupied, but as you can see, a lot of them are extremely old. Haven't really seen any modern buildings as of yet. I did see Noble Street Park, which was looked pretty modern. And oh yeah, of course, Anniston City Hall. That was probably the most modern building that I've seen so far. Rest of these buildings are from the late 1800s to the mid 1900s, maybe 1930s. Like for instance, this building right here, 1018 Noble Street, was built in 1900. So they have an art gallery right here. But what I like about them is that they do preserve these buildings really well. They preserve them really good despite how old they are. And many of them are still occupied or are occupied by modern businesses. Now this one right here is 1006 Noble Street, circa 1888. So this is a commercial property for sale by owner, but it was at one point occupied by a furniture outlet store. It's a pretty nice sized building too. Commercial property for sale. To all you investors out there. This is a Western Auto Associate store, mercantile store, hardware. Okay. It's a pretty good sized building right here. It was once occupied by the Commercial National Bank. Even that building looks relatively vacant. Like I can't really tell if it's occupied or not. But from the looks of it, it doesn't look like it's occupied. But when we go down the other way of Noble Street, oh, there it go. Another one of those SH Crest department store buildings. Used to be a 5, 10, and 25-cent store. Yeah, so if you had 5, 10, 25 cent back during that time, you was balling. For real. Calhoun County Courthouse Annex. Check this out. Right, they have the meet and greet for Butterbean in January of 2025. Hey, who remember Butterbean from back in the day? They're gonna have a meet and greet with him in Gaston, Alabama. Gaston's actually not too far from Anniston. I did a vlog back in Gaston. Or I did a vlog in Gaston back in, I believe that was July, if I'm not mistaken. But check out this building right here. This is Anniston City Hall. This is wait a minute. This must be the old City Hall, because I remember the other City Hall. The other one over there must be the modern City Hall, and this is says Anniston City Hall, unless they plan on moving it here. This kind of confused. This kind of threw me off a little bit. I guess they plan on moving City Hall over here. But this right here used to be the federal building courthouse. It might still be the federal building courthouse of Anniston. It was architected back in 1904 by James Knox Taylor. So as you can tell, this is a really old building. See a lot of abandoned buildings downtown Anniston. Wow, look at the movie posters that they have right here. This is obviously an abandoned building, which looks like it was once upon a time a theater, but they still have the movie posters up right here. I guess as a kind of like as a relic. But yeah, Jack Nicholson, Faye Dunaway, the movie Chinatown. Of course, you had Jaws. You had Cinderella, Walt Disney's Cinderella, Technicolor. And of course you had the very first Star Wars movie. Here you go, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo. Anakin Skywalker. You had C-3PO, Chewbacca, and what was that? I think was it R2-D2? Yeah. Star Wars poster from back in the late 70s, I think it was. 1977 to be exact. Yeah. Star Wars is, of course, one of my favorite franchises of all time. I hate that George Lucas sold the rights to Disney, but that's a whole nother story. Check this out, another historical building. This was built in the late 19th century, 1891 to be exact. 1224 Noble Street. Now I'm at the corner of Noble and 13th Street. And yet again, another abandoned building. I mean, when you look at downtown Anniston, yes, there are operational businesses and stuff like that. But at the same time, you could kind of tell a city when you see these many like shuttered buildings. You could tell the city. You could definitely tell by that it is symbolic of population decline. Check out this dope art piece. I mean, this is dope. These different colors. And this is a mural of a bunch of jazz musicians, black jazz musicians right over here. You know, playing multiple woodwind instruments. One of them playing looks like the harmonica. One of them over here playing the sax. Actually, two of them over here playing the sax. This is really dope right here. This is really dope. One of them playing the trombone, I think that is. And the sister right here with the fro, right here on the left, playing a tambourine. And this beautiful piece of art is called the Jazz Communion. And it was put together by Joseph Geary. Joseph Geary. So definitely check out Joseph Geary. Check him out. Look him up, man, and check out his art pieces. This is a really beautiful work of art. Shout out to Joseph Geary for this beautiful piece called the Jazz Communion. Before I go, I wanted to get this marker of a very tragic event that took place on July 15th, 1965, and that was the murder of Willie Brewster. Willie Brewster became the target of white extremists after words spoken at the National States Rights Party encouraged them to commit acts of violence against blacks. As Brewster drove home with co-workers from the night shift at Union Foundry, he was shot in the neck. Upon his death 3 days later, the Anniston Star published a full-page advertisement offering a $20,000 reward for the arrest and conviction of his killer. It was endorsed by 268 black and white Annistonians. Hubert Damon Strange was convicted for killing Brewster on December 2nd, 1965. It was the first instance in Alabama history when a white jury penalized a white person for racial murder. Wow, that's interesting because that rarely happened during that time. But yes, there was a article printed in the Anniston Star publication on Sunday, July 18th, 1965 on page 5A, and it read, "We as a community are determined that those who advocate and commit secret acts of violence will not control this country. We are determined to fight with the weapons of law to retain the dignity of this community and to punish those who struck down a respectable and industrious citizen." Oh yeah, so even that act of violence was so just unnecessary that even the white jurors were like they couldn't let that murderer get away with murder, right? They couldn't allow him to be acquitted. So shout out to that jury, that white jury back during that time. Turning down Moore Avenue. And a couple of abandoned buildings. One of them was once a poultry factory. And over there is the, I just passed the Louisville and Nashville Railroad Freight House. And this is Zen Park, where I just passed by. So it's a city park here in Anniston called Zen Park. Look at these houses over here. As I continue down Moore Avenue, so in a residential neighborhood, you can tell a lot of these homes are extremely old. One of those homes I just passed by is boarded up. Some of these homes are bungalows. I see another bungalow over there to the right that's boarded up. It's interesting that Anniston has so many abandoned buildings and older homes, given that, you know, this city is actually younger than a lot of cities in Alabama. Like I said, it was, like I mentioned earlier, it was established in 1883. It was established not too long after Birmingham was incorporated. So Anniston and Birmingham are roughly around the same age, but yet, when you look at both cities, both of those cities have a lot of rundown neighborhoods and old abandoned buildings. So I don't understand that, but I guess it just depends on you know, I guess crime plays a part in it. A lot of crime and you know, maybe lower income levels, and some cities put more, you know, they invest more money into rebuilding their cities than any other city. So you just never know. You just never know. But you know, Anniston does have a lot of history, though. Some good, some bad, but you know, it's still standing. You know, I guess, you know, the people out here do the best that they can. Had to turn that heater off. I did not realize that the heater was on until just now. I'm hoping it didn't drown out the audio of the commentary. Yeah, this microphone is really getting it put to the test today. This DJI transmitter. But this is the Centennial Memorial Park right here. So it's another one of those military parks, similar to what they have in Oxford. It's one of those military memorial parks. memorializing those soldiers who served in the multitude of wars. So it'll be repetitive for me showing that. I mean, this is just Anniston's version of it. You know, I showed one over there by the Oxford Civic Center in Oxford, Alabama. So, yeah. But this is, I'm about to turn back onto Quintard Avenue. Quintard Avenue is a main drag right here in Anniston. Oh yeah, I also want to mention, before I get off the video, before I conclude the video, I want to mention that Fort McClellan is also here in Anniston. Fort McClellan is no longer in operation, but Fort McClellan is located right here in Anniston, Alabama. It was decommissioned during the time where, you know, back in the 90s, where a lot of military posts and military bases, you know, were decommissioned. A lot of Army installations were decommissioned, and Fort McClellan was one of them. But it was once an Army base that was located adjacent to Anniston, Alabama. So as I mentioned before, I'm right here on Quintard Avenue, and as you can see, there's a bunch of restaurants and establishments right here on the main drag through the city. And also, before I go, I want to mention that Fort McClellan was reportedly recently purchased by comedian Cat Williams. Cat Williams purchased the Fort's Barracks in Anniston to develop a movie studio. So that's a really great investment by Cat Williams. Very smart man, extremely funny, but extremely intelligent as well. One of the most intellectual comedians of our time. So shout out to Cat Williams for that investment to develop a movie studio, because what that does is that puts money into the city and also creates jobs. So that'll be good, you know, because it'll create jobs, especially for the locals right here in Anniston, you know, because from the looks of it, Anniston looks like it's just, you know, of course, with the population decline and with the conditions of a lot of these buildings, it just looks like it's a struggling city. Looks like a lot of the residents are, you know, financially just not up to par. So that will be good to create jobs for, you know, people in a, economically distressed area. So shout out to Cat Williams. I wanted to conclude this video with that note. But with that in mind, good people, thank you guys for tuning in to the live or to the vlog. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. And also, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button along with the notification bell. That way you get notified each and every time P9 drops a new vlog. And with that in mind, good people, thanks for watching and have yourselves a great day. See you guys on the next one. Peace.